Okay, so today I'm going to do a demo with markers. I'm going to use cool gray and a blue gray, and those are going to represent white. So all you do is sketch whatever you are going to sketch on your initial paper, transfer it to marker paper, and then use your gray shades very lightly on the edges. This is a white blouse, so very lightly on the edges here. And it's super easy to get the effect of having a white colored garment. So this sleeve is actually super long. It covers the actual fingertips, and that's the beginning. I'll go in and add my second color here. So the first one was my blue gray. Now I'm going to use my cool gray, and I'm just going to add and push on the darker side just a tiny bit. Give a little bit more depth. And of course your shadow area, so under the collar. And I'm just gonna darken the dark side of things. So the left side of her torso, the left side of her bust. And there's a little shadow underneath where the shirt overlaps at the opening. And here the darker side, because my shadow side in this case is on the left. So that was the darker side of our sleeve. I'll barely touch on the light side just to make sure that it's there, but barely touch. So that is the beginning. I'll give a little bit of color here on the collar and a little darker once again here under the bust, more so on the shadow side and much less so on the side where we have our light source. So that is how you show white. And you can continue this process and go over and over and over again. I'm just gonna now take a colorless blender and push. So where the dark side ends, I'm just gonna start to blend that a little with colorless blender, just to push the color over in a blended way into the light source. So there we are. And now we have the feeling of a white garment. So this is a white blouse, for example, with super long, oversized sleeves. All right, so now I have finished up with the marker. I'm just gonna add a very light blue colored pencil. Just touching up some of these darker sides, just the tiniest bit, because remember, we want it to feel white. So on my shadow side, just giving a little definition here with the lightest blue. And it's just gonna help things to pop a tiny little bit. Of course, you can do your colors for your buttons and for the rest of everything else, whatever you decide, but you basically are adding a very light gray and a very light blue to the seams and the outer edges in order to capture the feeling of white. And we literally only use the colorless blender to blend, so there's no other color on there. Very light pressure is needed when you are doing your light blue colored pencil. And that's it. Sometimes it's nice to even go over that light blue colored pencil and soften it once again with the colorless blender. So I can soften that and just push that color around a tiny little bit more. The blender just helps us to soften everything, and it feels more airy. All right, so here I'm just touching up where I was already with the blender, with the colored pencil first, and now with the blender. And that is how you get the feeling of a white garment You're just using very light gray. In my case, I use Cool Gray 20 and I used a blue gray. They're from different styles of markers. And then I use that colorless blender. And then I added a very small touch of light blue colored pencil. That is it. If you wanted, you could add highlights, which would be your whiteout. You can add touches of those highlights, or white gel pen. That is a nice touch. I'll show you an example of that, but that's an option. That's not necessary. This is all that's necessary. But I will show you an example with the white gel pen. And here's the white gel pen, and I'm just giving a little bit of a highlight. That gel pen is mostly there just to add a little bit of a kick to it. It's not necessary though, so you don't absolutely need to do this gel pen. But it does add a very nice touch in case you wanted to add it. So for me, I'm going over those pencil lines with that gel pen, and it just kind of softens things down, gives it more of a feeling of art as opposed to just having the flat layers of the color. It kind of just pops off the page a tiny bit. So it's a nice thing to have if you have a white gel pen, but remember, it is definitely not at all necessary. But I'm just going over some of these darker pencil lines with my gel pen, and it just kind of blends it, and it doesn't feel quite as flat once you do that. It feels more like a painting as opposed to a sketch. So it feels a little more like art as opposed to just a fashion sketch, which is more practical. All right, so that is the final touch. Again, white gel pen, optional, not at all necessary. And there we have it. How do you create white garments? And the answer is you are using very light gray or even light blue marker. And then I've added a touch of light blue colored pencil, blended it all together with my colorless blender, and I've added a bit of white gel pen. That's it for now. I'll catch you next time.